right, you're tuned into the Dope Signal. I'm your host, Derek Hanley, former military medic, author of Photos from the Front Lines, and the founder of Dope. With me today, my guest is my friend Janeen Baggette. She's also a fellow military medic, law enforcement officer, K9 handler, and the founder of K9s for Freedom and Independence. Janeen, how are we doing today?
Good, buddy. Long time.
Great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here and agreeing to come
Absolutely.
on. I know you've had a long day and you're on the road, so thank you
Yes,
for um, giving a little bit more of your energy to the program. I know you're in your hotel room and
absolutely.
everything like that.
Anything
So
for you.
cool. So let's start off. Just give our audience a sense of what are CIRT canines. How did you come to understand this concept and help them understand a little bit about it?
Sure. So CIRT K9s is the acronym CIRT, which stands for Critical Incident Response Team, and it's a K9, K the number nine. Because we're in the first responder field, we're all into acronyms, we're all into shortening things because we have to get our best bang for our buck. So that's why it went to CIRT and then K the number nine, because we don't use the full word K9, and the acronym for a dog is K the number nine. I wanted to, along with some of the people that have come along this journey with me, has thought that dogs are so important in so many different aspects. And with all the problems that we're having, whether or not it's the military veteran field, it's the law enforcement, it's fire, whatnot. There's so many things that people have not looked into that we can use these dogs for. And so I came across using some of my skills and abilities from the law enforcement canine realm to do this. And that's where it all comes from. And it's to assist those that are still working or assist those in our community in that mental health role where we can better assist people because maybe they want to see the dog and in the process see us for being human.
What are some of the functions of a critical incident response canine, in the course of their lifetime?
We've had so many dogs used for a menagerie of things. Everything from just, yeah, a love puppy, petting on them, which is the easy stuff, all the way to and through being used on the side of a freeway because somebody's threatening to you run out in traffic and commit suicide. And we're able to use that dog in a way that we can distract them from that topic that's on their brain of I want to commit suicide by running out in front of a moving 18-wheeler on the freeway to petting a dog, talking to us about wanting to engage with the dog, and what we call, you and I both know what an OODA loop is. And the OODA loop that has them thinking, I have to kill myself, I want to kill myself, I'm not worthy, whatever that OODA loop that they're in, we can use the dog to break that OODA loop and hopefully get them to consider the possibility that that's maybe not what they need to be doing. And if the dog goes with us, comes out and visits while you're on the side of the freeway, if you get into the car with the dog, they can willingly go for treatment versus having to forcefully put them in handcuffs and drag them off. So all the way around, it's just a tool that can be used in so many different ways. And so, yes, there's so many different ways that these dogs can be used. It's not just your typical pet my dog and feel better.
Man, I'm getting emotional just hearing about the example you raised.
It's an actual example that happened.
Man,
Yeah.
um,
It was a young
unbelievable.
teenage girl that thought that that was her only way.
Hmm.
That was her only way of dealing with whatever she was going through. Yeah. So imagine you and I can both imagine what we've
Hmm.
gone through in the military and some of those things that come back with us that we can't easily put down.
Mm.
This is a teenage, girl
Hmm.
that doesn't have all the I'll say it baggage that we come home with.
Hmm.
And I mean, you can't compare because it's two totally different experiences, but
Yes.
in those people, it's just as heavy because that's their experience versus
Hmm.
you and I have been in combat and it's our experience of the things that we saw and we did and,
It's all
the
relative.
job that we had to do. Yeah, yeah.
T Take me through the route to get to this point. Because, like I said, you started off in the military as a medic. Um, start us off there and kind of give us the path of that you've walked to
Sure.
get to this point
The
of founding K9s for Freedom.
Yeah, the Reader's Digest version is I had a rough childhood. Maybe not as rough as some people, but for me it was rough. I was abused as a child. I was beaten as a child by step brothers, and I escaped out of that into the military, which, we see that's very, from what I'm learning now, is very common. They escape out of something and then they join the military. Was in the military, did a combination of reserve and active duty for about 9 years. Ended up as an aerovac medic in the Air Force over in the first Gulf War. So Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Came back from that, had had enough in the military side of it. Had had enough, decided to go into the law enforcement type realm and went into corrections first, then went into the actual law enforcement. I've worked for federal, state, and local agencies. And my passion has always been dogs. I've been a bomb dog handler, a narcotics dog handler, a search and rescue dog handler in multiple disciplines. And I thought, this is my niche. This is that thing that God gave me as my tool that I could use. And so I started off doing handicap service dogs and found that for me that just wasn't enough because I'm taking one dog and I'm helping one person and I wanted to do more with that. So I took the one dog and then quadrupled it by having it being used in a mental health way, but for a multitude of people. A large community in the first responder field are also veterans. It's estimated that it's about 30%.
Mm.
So I'm still helping the veteran side. I'm still helping the first responder side. And with that, I've then added the cortisol detection to it. And with that, these dogs, other than environmentally sound, they've got all their obedience, they've got a great temperament because they can't have any aggression, they can't have any really bad habits that would prevent them from engaging with other humans. But we teach them cortisol because then if I'm in a group of people, that dog is going to show me who in the vicinity that they have access to has got the highest amount of cortisol, which that in of itself is going to help us identify the person who's maybe more at risk of committing suicide or, out sick more or is struggling more to the point where maybe they're going to drink more alcohol or going to have some of those secondary things that can then affect their job. It could be an adult, it could be a child. We're doing a lot of work now with the abused children and children that have been trafficked because those kids are horrifically
Mm.
traumatized by what they're going through. And they may not want to see me, the cop in uniform, because I'm still active. I'm just reserved now. But they might want to see a cute yellow lab
Mm.
or, some other breed or mixed breed of dog. And I'm just the other person on the end of the leash. I don't have to be the center of attention. That's not what this is for. That's why I'm not in a lot of these videos and photos that are being placed out there because it's not about me. It's about trying to help those individuals that are needing help. And if I'm helping, let's say it's a parent, that parent can go home and be in a better frame of mind to assist that spouse or assist those children that are theirs. And so it's not just this one person that we're helping. There's all these other people. And what about the other people that they're also working with?
Mm,
And my biggest thing, and you've heard me say it before, we've had these talks, it's if I can't put a widget to what I've prevented,
hmm
all I can do is put a widget to I made contact with this individual. We don't know necessarily what was on that person's mind. Maybe this is not odd but God that I crossed paths with this person. I had my dog with me, or one of the handlers that I've got across the country cross paths with. And just by that crossing of paths, now that person isn't going to go have that extra drink, go do something to take their own life,
hmm
or, something that's where we don't know what didn't happen. And I'm okay with that. But these guys are out doing amazing things with, yeah, the dogs that I've trained. But I'm not the one that's supposed to be the focus. It's supposed to be the dogs assisting in the first responder field, making it more healthy overall.
I'll tell you what you did do is you gave me goosebumps,
Oh,
and made me emotional again. I mean, the stories. I want to get into some other, kind of impactful moments that you've experienced doing this
yeah,
work a little later on. I need a moment to.
yeah,
Let's lighten it up a little bit, Janine. How about
yeah.
um, because man, yeah, the exponential impact that you're talking about is just tremendous. And yes, I love the focus being on the dogs, but again, this is why I want to have this conversation with you because we need to hear from you, the person who has set these chain of events into motion. Um, because I think once people hear, what you talk about and some of these stories, I mean, it's just you cannot help but be hooked and want to learn more and want to support K9s for Freedom and Independence and CIRT K9s and anyone who does this work because it really is amazing. I'd like
That's what
to,
I'm that's what I'm floored at, just real quick. I'm floored at is that I work with other organizations that even do things that are similar. We should all be working together. And the thing that I'm seeing, and it's the same thing, unfortunately, in some of the first responder arenas, is there's more of a competition than there is. The end goal is we're supposed to be helping those that we're supposed to be serving. It's not about me versus you. I don't care how big my organization would get. I can't fulfill every agency getting a dog. I can't.
mhm.
So why don't we all work together and bring this specialty to a professional level and help each other out? I don't
Here,
get
here,
that.
here,
So,
here. Talk a little bit about for the listeners the kind of different levels of canine training that are out there.
sure.
Because, you see someone walking around, in Target and they have a dog and it's got a vest on, it says service animal or whatever, and you don't know, what level of training is this canine that's walking around capable of? And
Right.
you've mentioned, these animals could potentially be on emergency scenes or crime scenes and things like that.
Hmm.
And, you don't want someone's therapy dog wandering around a crime scene, disturbing evidence or something like that. So you need a very highly specialized canine to be able to do this work. So talk a little about the different kind of levels of canine training that are out there that
Hmm.
you see and where CERT canines kind of fall within that spectrum.
Sure. Well, everyone has heard about the handicap service dogs. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that abuse that as well. A and that's not what these dogs are because the handler that is handling the CERT canines is not handicapped. They're an active member of an agency. But for those different levels, what we've come up with is four different levels of training. There is something called like a mascot or a facility dog. And those are dogs that really have minimal training. They're not specifically trained to do anything in particular. They they look pretty in pictures. They make a great 5 o'clock news type, interview, and that's about it.
Mm.
They may not even have any basic obedience or have any ability to be house trained. Uh, who knows? From there, it would go to like a therapy dog. Therapy dogs have minimal training. They have basic obedience, if we're lucky. They have hopefully a friendly temperament. And typically, those dogs are used in low stress situations with a few amount of people. So, if you can imagine going to a medical facility, a hospital, a hospice center, and there's maybe one or two, if max, probably maybe five people in a room. It might be solemn because the person in there is either injured or elderly, but it's not high stress. And the dogs are in there for a little while, maybe a couple hours across the entire facility. But in that room, they're in there for 30 minutes maybe, and then they're out. So from there, we go from the therapy type dog to what we're calling like a crisis support or a crisis slash comfort dog. And those dogs have a little bit more training than the therapy dogs, and they might be secondary to an incident where, let's say, you've got a parking lot full of people that are doing a candlelight vigil for a, a person that was unfortunately killed or injured in some sort of an incident. That would be a place that those dogs would go because it's public access. It's not anything that's dealing with a crime scene. They don't have to have, over the top training, but they do need to have basic obedience, a good temperament, and deal with some higher stress. So that's kind of that third level. And then the top level that can do anything below that would be like the CIRT K9s because they have to have a high level of obedience. They have to be extremely social. They can't have the inclination to use their mouths on anyone in an aggressive way or even another animal.
Mm.
They're used to very high stressful situations with large amounts of people. Could be a situation that has um, a lot of chaos going on, whether or not you're talking a multitude of police and fire vehicles with their lights and sirens and everything going, and people running around because they're trying to take care of whatever that emergent situation is, screaming, yelling, different situations of that sort. And they have to be the calm in that storm.
Mm-hmm.
But then on top of that, this is the only group of individuals that has one of these CERT canines that has the professional training as the human to deal with traumatized people. There is no certifications out there that require, other than the one that we use through ARI, that requires that the human has to have applicable training to interact with traumatized people from an event that could be used in a court of law. So that's why we're using employees from first responder agencies, because whether or not you're sworn, or you're an administrator, or you're a dispatcher, or you're a firefighter, you may not be a sworn police officer, deputy, whatever, but your FBI background check is done to a very high level. You have your CJIS certification, which is the Criminal Justice Information System testing that we have to do every 2 years. And the rest of the information, like um, how to work within a chaotic situation like that, whether or not it's a radio or it's a crime scene or it's a hazmat type situation, um, who knows what all could be going on in that type of a situation. But both the human and the dog have good training to be able to professionally work within that type of a austere type of situation. Because even if the dog gets you in the door to someone who's traumatized, if you say something stupid, like, oh, yeah, I know how you feel. I've been through that too. Well, you may have been through something similar, but you've not been through what this person has gone through and can see it through their eyes. And they're coming from a different experience. So it could be even more traumatizing to them than what you've been through. So there's a lot of things like that that you've got to know what and what not to say. You've got to have a dog that remains calm in a chaotic situation, and they have to be well behaved and well tempered to be able to work in that. And then these dogs can also do the critical incident stress debriefs
Mm-hmm.
after the
Mm,
event happens. And that could be for the community that was involved. It could be for the first responders that was involved. It could be for the families that were
mm,
involved. It could be a combination. And so they have to be able to cope with the cortisol and the anxiety and the energy that people put off because they are so highly stressed. And what the dogs do is they can not erase, but they can lower that cortisol level.
mm-hmm.
And in the process, your serotonin and your dopamine levels will then raise, which then is what counters you and calms you down.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just talking on the victim side of a non-criminal incident. We can get into the criminal side of a victim, and it actually helps them solve cases. Because if you can lower the cortisol and raise the dopamine and the serotonin, then that victim can remember more things about the crime that happened, which will give them, as in a detective, the chance and maybe that little piece of the pie that can help them find that person and get them into custody and build that case. And we know, even in the military, time is money.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can get this case solved, get it off my desk, I'm now on to the next one.
Yep.
There's a never-ending battle of those cases, but it'll help you get through them. And so there's so many different avenues that these dogs are helping as long as they're trained correctly and the humans are trained correctly and they're trained to work as a team. So that's kind of the difference between what a mascot is that doesn't really do anything, to what ours do, which is the highest level of what I've shown in illustrations to be four different levels of that type of work. That therapy dog or crisis response type category.
Give me goosebumps again, Janine. Uh, Man, just thinking about the criminal aspect and the victim,
Yeah,
like, wow, this is such a versatile tactical tool.
yeah,
It's like the Swiss Army knife of
yes,
K9 operators. I mean, with all the uses you're describing, it's just flabbergasting, and it's almost shocking that this is not a mandatory tool in every public safety department's arsenal.
right.
I'm sure you, you have your own feelings about that
Sure.
particular thing, but you know, you're talking about bringing these animals to multiple casualty incidents, fires, um, active shooter incidents, things like that.
Hmm.
And you know, I as a you know EMS instructor, I understand how to train humans to handle situations like this, but how do you train an animal? And what are some of the like stress inoculation things you do within your training program that allows these animals to operate cool, calm, and efficient in these chaotic situations? And um, I also loved the cortisol detection. I mean, that's just like another mind-boggling thing that these dogs can do. If you could kind of talk about some of the pearls of your training program as it relates
Sure.
to stress inoculation and cortisol detection, some of the other interesting features that you can train these dogs to do to be able to operate in the field.
Sure. Honestly, I take a dog that comes from a rescue group. I just tested a dog a couple weeks ago, and he's only 4 months old right now. And by what they were describing of him, he sounded like a great candidate. Well, I can't just go off of what they're saying. So I asked them whether or not I could take him out and go test him out in an environment that he's probably never been to. And this happens to be the same rescue that I got another dog from. So they already knew me. And they're like, yeah, let's make the appointment. Let's get this done. So I take him out and I want to see what his innate behavior is. Is he kind of a fearful dog, an aggressive dog, a shy dog? Is he confident? Is he stubborn? It just depends. And so I took him to one of the big box stores that does home improvement type stuff. And when the doors open, you and I can understand, well, there's a sensor and then it opens the door and then you walk through. Dogs don't get that. They walk up to it and then bam, it just opens in their face. And that could be enough to startle a dog. Well, this 4 month old was like, well, that was cool. And that was it. And we keep walking. He's not good on a leash because he's a puppy and he's pulling and he's doing stuff. I don't care about that because that can easily be taught. So, walking him around people and some of the noises and dropping things around him just to see what he's going to be like. It's one thing to startle. It's another thing to then go into panic mode and then want to run from the situation.
Hmm.
And I've seen opposite things happen. I've seen them panic and then run to try and get away from it. But I've also seen the opposite where they startle, they panic, and they become aggressive. I've had a Labrador in particular
Hmm.
that came up the leash at me.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, this is not going to work, obviously. Took him back to the person. I said, hey, I'm sorry, but it's just not going to work.
Hmm.
So we're looking for that innate behavior. Now, he probably, in this case for this puppy, probably hasn't been asked to do a lot of weird kind of things, like jumping up on things, getting up on a flatbed cart, let's say. Let's see if he'll at least try. Even with using some food for this puppy, I want to see, is he willing to try? What's his motivation? Does he like toys? Does he like food? Does he like getting loved on? Okay, let's find out. And sure enough, they're being awkward at 4 months. They're still pretty awkward with all their four legs trying to control them. And let's see what he'd do. The best as he could, he tried to hop up onto that flatbed cart to get the treat. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fantastic. Then we went off from there and I tried getting him up on other weird things to see if there was going to be issues with carts walking by, because people are shopping. Nothing fazed this poor boy. And I'm like, okay, gotta have him. And so we get into that. Once he comes to me, then yeah, then we'll start the rest of the training, which is obedience and crate training and manners and all these different kinds of things. But you can't take a dog that's extremely fearful of something or super shy, like, ooh, don't touch me, and make them into one of these dogs. They've got
Hmm.
to come with a basic temperament, is going to work well for this type of a position, than making a dog work in this position. You can't force it.
Hmm.
They've either got it and then you can fine tune it, you can tweak it. It's kind of like with some women who like to change their man. It's like, no, no, don't, don't even go there. Because I use kids as an analogy as well. You find something that's compatible and then you work between the two of you to make the relationship better. Yes. But you don't take someone who's not respectful of women and think you can make him Prince Charming. That's not going to happen. So, same basic concept. You've got to find something that you have the possibility of tweaking a little bit or guiding in the right direction. And so that's how we teach that. And then the cortisol, I have my ways of getting the odor, and we introduce it honestly with the puppies, it's with food. They want the food, but when they get the food, they also get the odor. So we've got boxes that we use, and you can pop a treat in the box that they're also getting the odor. So it's basically, it's a very simple concept that with the food you get the odor. And so down the road, the minute they recognize the odor, they're like, oh, I remember this. And so little by little, you're going from throwing the treat in that they get to see go in there, and they're initially only going in for the treat, to then you're working boxes and they acknowledge the odor, you then give them a treat. And then little by little, it progresses from there, and they will stop. And each dog's a little bit different because we purposefully don't train an alert in them, because we don't want the dog giving away to the group or the individual that I know that you are highly stressed and you have some high cortisol going on. I want to be able to identify in my dog what my dog does that would
Hmm.
be different from one of our other dogs. Okay, I need to keep an eye on this person, or we need to make sure we do follow-ups with this person, or whatever that looks like to that individual or that agency, whatever their group is. So we know to make sure to follow up with them. They just don't know that our dog dimed them out.
Riveting. Absolutely riveting. I'm here talking with Janeen Baggette, founder of K9s for Freedom and Independence. You're listening to the Dope Signal. We'll be right back after these messages.
Derek Hanley here, a photographer, a videographer, a veteran combat medic.
Derek Hanley is with us today.
We have on the line with us Derek O'Hanley. What a remarkable book. Obviously, you had no idea when you embarked on this journey of embedding with paramedics and, frontline responders. There was no way to know that a worldwide pandemic was on its way.
His goal was to document the day-by-day life-saving that they do. And now you can experience what it was like.
He's done a book that should be a coffee table book in homes and offices. It's something in the office that somebody's going to pick up, look at, and be moved by. This is the book.
Our military protects us overseas. Our first responders are the ones who protect us at home. And we need to start thinking about what we can do to take care of medics like we do for our military.
The book is Photos from the Front Line.
Photos from the front line.
Photos from the front lines.
Photos from the front lines.
So that's dope. It's DOHP.net. And you can find Derek's book there.
Yeah, we've had some really cool stories from a number of the different handlers. And yeah, when they're telling me, I lose it. Because it's like the first time I'm hearing it, and then you and I, because of our medical backgrounds, you kind of put yourself in that person's position of how traumatized they were, how scared they were, or how, fearful, whatever. And you're like, oh my, I can't even imagine.
Can't imagine. Yeah.
What that would be like. And one of our guys, funny and embarrassing for him, but then also goosebumps. So, he gives you all three in this one story. And I was like, that is like creepy cool. So
that's like emergency life right there. Like goosebumps,
oh, yeah.
Crying, laughing. Like that's
yeah,
Pick
all
one.
within
Which
like
one are
5
we
minutes.
in? Yeah, which one are we in? Okay, go. Cool. Yeah, you're so well spoken with this stuff, and we could probably talk for 3 hours or more about all the
I could
stories that
talk
you could
all
tell.
day about dogs.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Dope Signal. Derek O'Hanley here, speaking with Janeen Baggette, founder of K9s for Freedom and Independence. They do critical incident response team K9 training. And Janine, I mean, like I said, I feel like we could talk for hours and hours, and the stories that you have relating to this are probably countless. But if
Mhm.
we could reach into your vault a little bit and pull out a couple of examples of some of because I know these dogs have to respond to some heavy, and the handlers
Yeah.
have to respond to some pretty heavy things. So, what are some of the ways that you've seen this be impactful, kind of when it's been a really hard moment for whoever you've had to respond to, or have had, heard your handlers that you've trained have to respond to.
Sure. We've had a number of things, and the nice thing about when we have a region that has multiple teams that have some of my dogs, it's hard, but then it's great because when an incident happens, they all have everyone's phone number by text, and
Hmm.
they can do a group text and say, "Hey, we've just had." It's an officer involved shooting or an officer was killed or something of that nature. And they can say, hey, who's available? Because I've got multiple locations I need people at. Who's available to respond? And they'll have the access to say, okay, I need somebody at that agency where the officer was hurt or killed. I need somebody at the hospital. I need, and they can pick multiple locations. And
Hmm.
then if it's multiple days, and they're helping each other because one person can't handle all that. You will burn yourself out if you're doing it on your own every single time, the whole time. So that's an overview of some of the stuff that we've done, but getting into some of the particulars. One of my newest handlers at the time called me and said, "Hey, I just had this really cool but sad story." And what it ended up being is she has the dog she was at the time working in an elementary school. She's walking down the hallway, but class is in session, so there's really no kids in the hallway. And her dog is well behaved, and all of a sudden her dog starts misbehaving and pulling on her. And she is, thinking to herself, what in the hell is going on here? I don't understand this. But luckily, she had enough forethought to go, I need to see what's going on here. I'm going to let this play out. And so she did. And come to find out, the dog was leading her in a certain direction. And it just happens that this small child, probably somewhere between 7 and 9, comes out of a classroom door. And that's the direction the dog was heading and links up with this kid who's now walking the opposite direction that they just came. So this little girl is going back in the direction that they just came up the hallway from.
Hmm.
And this dog is like stuck to her hip and is following her down the hallway. And then the handler's at the end of the leash following the dog who's following the child. They go down the hallway and to and through and into the admin office and then into the counselor's office who's in, the admin room, sits down and the counselor was like, "Oh, shoot, you're here. I was just getting ready to call you." And so what she told me is after the fact, they found out she knew nothing. I mean, she may have known the face of this child. She didn't know the situation of this child. And what ended up happening is this child was witnessed her mother attempting suicide the night before. And the dog picked up on it and stuck to her like glue, followed her through. And, it's that dog is an attractant for these kids in a good way. If I have a problem, I can go see, and I don't care if I mean, we've had handlers that will get the phone call that an employee or someone, maybe it's a school child, "Hey, are you going to be around? I want to get some loving time with," and then name the dog.
Hmm.
And then they get there, and it may be someone that wasn't even on your radar. It could be someone who's having a family issue, or maybe they have a child that's sick, but it's affecting work. Well, that's another preventative too. If we can lower the pressure cooker the pressure in the pressure cooker or the pressure in the water heater, whatever you want to use, that's something that you prevented. And it was all because of the dog. They're not coming to see you, and I'm good with that. Come see the dog. I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
problem with that. And as you're dealing with this dog, again, you're lowering your cortisol level, you're raising your serotonin and dopamine, and then you start verbalizing what's going on. Well, that's another way of letting off steam.
Mm-hmm.
And now we know that you're having an issue. And then if you have an appropriate agency, I don't care if it's work related or not. Work goes home, home comes to work. It is what it is. And we have to have these administrators start stepping up and being actual leaders. Just because you're in charge of an agency does not mean you're a leader. And it's going to affect you in the pocketbook, in every way, shape, and form. We need to help these people navigate through some of these problems that they're having. And if it takes them calling up and saying, hey, are you going to be around today? I need to come see me some Will or some Barry or name the dog. Come on down. We're here. And then you get some one-on-one in private. They might admit something. And then you could say, you know what? I've got something that might help with that. Or I know a program that you can go through. Or maybe it's, do you have a counselor? Because that's
Mm-hmm.
not our job. We're not counselors, but we can be that person that can almost be like a traffic officer and say, ooh, okay, so you got this problem. Let's send you this direction. This might help. Or, and be able to talk to them about what would work for you. A retreat, counseling, whatever that might be. A funny one that we had that was funny and embarrassing for the officer. And it's not that we train this dog to do this, but it goes hand in hand together, is we had a dog that was at an event. And I don't know, I can't remember what the event was, but in the process, an adult woman comes in the door. She was a dog lover. Well, she asked, hey, he's in his uniform and doesn't like walk away or anything like that. He's in there visiting with people, and she wants to visit with the dog. So she politely asks, oh yeah, he's very friendly. Please go right ahead. You can pet him. And the dog goes up to her, and from what he was describing is she was well endowed, let's put it that way. And he did not feel comfortable even describing that. And from him telling me the story after the fact, his dog started not hard, but nose punching, like pushing his nose firmly against this one woman's specific side of one breast. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. He's never done this. I mean, he's like super embarrassed and everything about it. And she goes, no, 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 no. No, no. Let me explain. I just want you to know, not that, I go around telling everyone, but just so you know, I was just diagnosed with breast cancer in that breast on that side. We don't train the dogs to do cancer detection, but in a sense, we're training them to detect the odd odor out.
Mm-hmm. Anomalies.
Well, that's what cancer is. It's the odd thing out. And so he's telling me about it. I mean, the man is blushing because that's just not his personality, is to, that. And so these different things you feel bad for the woman because obviously she's got this diagnosis. He feels embarrassed because he doesn't want to talk about body parts like that. And but you put all of it together and after the fact, yeah, it's kind of comical. The what the dog did and him telling the story, not the diagnoses, because that's never a joke, never funny, never. But so there's so many different stories that we get. Children where they're doing demos in classrooms, and the dogs to the handlers are identifying to the handler something's up with a specific child in a group of 15, 20, 30, whatever that number is. And so then they go and they tell the teacher, and the teacher's like, oh yeah, that person has a horrible home life, or whatever the thing is. And it's like, it's all the time. And it's sad, but that the kids or the people, the adults are going through certain things, but if we can interject ourselves in a good way, then maybe we can prevent what might happen or what they might have thought about doing or whatever. So it's not a fix for everything, but it's a great tool that, if done right, is minimal liability. So there's more of a positive than anything else.
Talk about some of the moments of healing that you've seen these dogs facilitate.
It has been amazing to see after the funeral of an officer or a firefighter passing, and you're working with the family and the joy that they get because they get to involve themselves in this dog, and even if it's just for a fraction of a second, get their mind off of things. We've got a dog that's in Madisonville, Kentucky, named their dog Cash after a deputy, or after one of their officers that was killed. And they still go by and visit the parents. And he's got children's books out about K9 Cash. And so those are super cute things. We've got an author that's up there in the Kansas City area that has now written 2 books on our dogs. One is CIRT K9 Lola, and she's with Clay County Sheriff's Department in Missouri. And then the other one, I think, is coming out soon. I think it's going to be on Izzy and out of California. And those are not my dogs, but Monica has certified under our program, and she helps out a lot. And you got to meet Monica.
And Izzy.
And yes, and Izzy, and then there's Fitz. Fitz
Yep,
now is.
Fitz. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so there's been that one. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stories where they're doing things like Stuart Broad, even though he's in a serious position there in Overland Park, Kansas, he does these cool things where he's got things. He's got the stuffed animals named after his dog. It's a little black lab looking dog with the collar, and it looks like Haven.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done some really cool things with trading cards where it's neat because, I mean, a lot of people have the trading cards, but they're specifically dealing with, again, abused children, trafficked children, mental health patients, and people in mental health distress. And they've taken some of these baseball cards for the dogs, the trading cards for the dogs, and they have put almost blended it into the backstory on the back of the card about this is all about the dog. Well, down at the bottom is, if you need help, please call.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually got a phone call recently. Nobody could understand what the heck this kid was talking about. It was like some gibberish kind of stuff. And well, I got this number from this dog, and I mean, I don't know what but nobody understood it until it finally got back to Stuart, and he was like, that came off of one of our cards,
Hmm.
and then they did the investigation backwards
Mm-hmm.
and got to deal with it. So that part was super cool, hearing stuff like that. And I don't even think it was a card that he had given personally out to that child. I think it's one they may have found or gotten from someone else, but it's crazy cool.
Yeah, you never
Yeah.
know. You never know where an impact is going to come from, or a touch
Yeah.
point or whatever. It's crazy, and like you're saying, the extrapolation of
Yeah.
of how this
The ripple
can
effect
help,
is
yeah,
amazing.
it's overwhelming to think about. Give me the 2 minute condensed version of what someone could expect coming to one of your conferences, because people listening to this may like what they're hearing. They may say, "Yeah, I'm on board with CIRT. This we need this in my community. I want to go to one of these conferences. What can I expect?"
Yeah. You can expect to come together with a bunch of other professionals who, number one, love dogs, number two, love to help their community, and want to build back that thin blue line that the way it's supposed to be. So whether or not you're there at the conference, if you ask for help, you will get help. You will not get punished for asking for help. If it's even after the conference, you can make phone calls and they will call you back and they will help you as best as they can. We get human training in the classroom. We get all different kinds of training that is going to help us on the mental health side. That's maybe going to help us on the first aid and CPR side with our animals. It could be somebody talking about, which we've got going on, different topics that are being discussed that you may not be as familiar with, but it's more things to add to your toolbox in your head. But we're also going out and we're doing dog training out in the world. We're doing things to expose the animals and their handlers to situations that they may never see again. But if we prepare for something that might happen, if it doesn't, yay for everybody. But if it does happen, you have something to fall back on in some of the experiences that you've already gone through. And we all need to remember when it comes to being a sworn person, a sworn officer, whether or not you be a deputy or a police officer or someone else, your legal role is still a law enforcement officer. So you might be working mental health as your main job, but if something happens and you have to revert back to, I'm now a cop and I must involve myself in a different way, we're doing training like that as well because you never know what's going to happen and what's going to come your way that you didn't plan on, because that's not what I'm here from. Let's say you're at a funeral and there's a bunch of cop cars and there's somebody driving by that hates cops and is like, oh, there's a whole bunch of them here. I think I'm going to go shoot this place up. There's a bunch of cops here. Well, what if that happens? I'm not saying it will, and I hope to God it never does. But shouldn't we always be ready for what might happen, praying that it doesn't? So we cover a lot of topics like this. The obscure, the little, maybe a little bit of wacky. I mean, last year we had a fantastic Oklahoma State trooper come in and do yoga for the handlers, and the dogs had to learn how to down and stay or sit and stay or, whatever, while you're doing, these different yoga positions. And the dog is like, you are crazy. What are you doing? You don't do this, but I'm doing it today. And so there's all different kinds of craziness that we do, get you out of your comfort zone.
I love it. Like I said, I feel like we could talk for hours about
Oh, yeah.
all this stuff here, and I'll have to have you back on at some point.
Yeah.
What do you have to plug? What do you got coming up?
We have our conference that's going to be in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. That's the September 28th through the 2nd of October. I'm going to be speaking at the Missouri School Resource Officer Conference, and that is in July. I cannot remember the dates offhand, but if you look up Missouri School Resource Officer Association, they're the ones putting that one on. And I will be traveling a few other places this year, but yeah, it's going to be a busy time. But yeah, check out the conference. Give me a call, send me an email, smoke signals, something. I'll get back to you as quick as I can. I mean, right now I'm in Baltimore. I'm pairing a dog with an agency that we're not telling people who it is just yet, but I am here in Baltimore, Maryland. And as soon as they make that official announcement, then I can then make that official announcement. But it's a well-known agency and it's a well-known division of an agency that everyone will recognize from a multitude of professional backgrounds.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
You can find me either, I've got my cell phone number and I'm more than willing to give that out. It's 360-471-1067. My email address is my first name, Janeen, Janeen at K9s4freedom.org. Website, K9s4freedom.org.
Awesome. Janine, thank you so much for speaking with me. What a great discussion. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your continued service to everyone
And to you.
who is still serving. My hat's off to you. What an honorable thing to be putting your energy towards. Let's get the word out, get people excited about this, and hopefully they can learn more, support K9s for Freedom and Independence, donate, join a class, join a conference, get involved. So thanks again so much for agreeing to be on the show. Really appreciate you. And you've been listening to the Dope Signal. Tune back in for the next episode.